If you're driving south through the Cajun country of southern Louisiana, you'll reach a point where the flat expanses of farmland give way to flooded swamps and marshes barely raised above sea level, a place where it's hard to say where land stops and ocean begins. That is, however, until you keep going and see ahead of you a tree-covered plateau, 2 miles wide and almost a perfect circle, raised in some sections more than 100 feet above the neighboring wetlands, and surrounded, moat-like, by a ring of water. This is Avery Island. You might know it as the home of the factory that makes Tabasco sauce, but it's even weirder when you realize that, extending in an arc both further inland to the north and further south into the Gulf of Mexico, more of these raised, forested circles continue, all the same size and the same shape. Geography is mostly predictable. Generally, landscapes don't change too drastically too quickly, but there are some areas, places like Avery Island, that seem very out of place when compared to the land around it. These geographic anomalies exist everywhere, and the US is no exception. In this video, I'll cover a few of these seemingly out of place geographic features that exist within the United States, looking at lesser known areas that stand out from the prevailing landscapes of the region, as well as parts of states that seem drastically different from the perceptions many people have about them. I have a lot of ideas of places to include in this video, and as not to make it too long, I'll probably end up making another video or two on this topic in the future. In addition, I think a video focusing on geographic anomalies around the world could also be super interesting, so if you have any ideas for places you'd like to see included in future videos, please leave a comment and let me know. Also, my US Explained series with an in-depth video on every state, territory, and federal district in the country is still underway, and the 11th installment on New York should be out soon. With that, hello and welcome to That Is Interesting. I'm your host, Carter. Today, the geographic anomalies of the United States. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. I'm someone who loves to learn new things, and I'm always interested in finding new creative outlets for myself. If you're subscribed to That Is Interesting, I'm sure you are too. When I started this channel 4 years ago, I was interested in geography but had little real experience with video and film production. I was just doing it for fun, and I never predicted that these videos I made as a hobby would ever grow into what they are today. Your passions and interests can have the same potential. If you're interested in learning a new talent or picking up a new hobby, Skillshare is the perfect place for you. Members have access to thousands of online, ad-free courses on practically any subject imaginable. I've always been interested in map making, which probably comes as no surprise, and I've wanted to learn how to improve the look of my maps even more. I'm taking a course on Skillshare called Map Making, Learn to Communicate Places Beautifully with Ann Dittmeyer. That's helped me improve both my hand-drawn and digital maps. With Skillshare, you can pick up new skills just like this. The first 1,000 people to use the custom link in the description to sign up will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so sign up below. Avery Island, where you can tour the Tabasco headquarters, pepper farms, and factory, is also in the gardens, sanctuaries for the island's unique biodiversity, and even a Buddhist temple. It's the most famous of Louisiana's salt domes, a phenomenon that exists all over the world. The Jashak Salt Dome in Iran is a prominent example, where the massive salt formation is visible on the surface, breaking through the mountains. Salt domes form because salt is very light. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, pockets of salt can heat up and turn to liquid. Its light density forces it up close to the surface, where it cools down, creating a large salt column that pushes the ground it sits beneath further up. It often picks up oil on its journey to the surface, trapping it in the columns. This, coupled with the fact that many of the world's salt columns exist in oil-rich regions like the Middle East and the Gulf of Mexico, means that many of them are home to oil drilling operations. Weeks Island, part of the string of Louisiana salt domes including Avery Island, is home to a major salt mine operated by Morton Salt, so odds are the salt you use in your food might have originated there. Some of the domes are simply enormous. One underwater dome off of Bay Marchand is astonishingly the size of Mount Everest. In 2012, likely due to drilling in the area, the Bayou Corn Dome began collapsing, creating a sinkhole that's still growing to this day and forced hundreds of locals to evacuate. Perhaps the most fascinating incident surrounding Louisiana's salt domes was the Lake Peigneur disaster of 1980. The formerly freshwater lake is now a brackish mix of fresh and salt water after a salt company accidentally drilled from the bottom of the lake into an existing salt mine, causing the lake to drain into the mine, ripping out the lake floor and causing a sinkhole that consumed 65 acres of land. While the lake normally drained into the Gulf of Mexico through a canal, the collapse caused the canal to flow backwards, bringing in an influx of salt water into the now much larger and deeper hole, and creating a waterfall that plunged for 164 feet, the tallest in the state. The catastrophic accidental draining, expansion, and refilling of the lake lasted for 2 days and expanded its depth from just 10 feet to 200. Shockingly, a fisherman who had been on the lake as it collapsed was able to get his boat to the land, and miraculously, no one died. The next place I'll talk about takes us to the southwest. Arizona is known for hot weather, year-round sun, and vast arid deserts. But contrary to many people's assumptions, the entire state is not a desert. In fact, much of the highly elevated area around the rim of the Colorado Plateau and surrounding mountains in the central and northern parts of the state is heavily forested and relatively lush. One of my favorite places in the country is the town of Sedona, Arizona. It sits in Arizona's red rock country, home to bright red earth and beautiful towering rock formations. But it's also home to flowing rivers and streams and forests nearby, the combination of which helps make for a beautiful landscape. While a wilderness of mountain forests and running water is far from unique in the US, it's also something you wouldn't expect to take up so much of a state like Arizona, which is so associated with the desert that its snow and pine-covered mountains and plateaus are all the more stunning. Perhaps Arizona's most striking forest is the Kaibab National Forest, which sits along nothing other than the north rim of the Grand Canyon, another place that's usually thought of as being just desert. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the forests of Arizona is how fast the landscapes change between desert and tree cover, and how even in forests, the desert-like red earth often remains. Moving across the Rockies into the Great Plains, western Oklahoma mostly consists of flat agricultural land. But amidst the seemingly endless farms and fields near the town of Cherokee sit the Great Salt Plains, a large salt flat sitting alongside a lake. Most salt flats in the U.S. are located in deserts within the dry mountain regions of the western U.S., such as the massive Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, and are found throughout desert regions of states like Oregon, Nevada, and California. The desert heat makes ancient lakes dry up, and the mountain ranges prevent water from flowing anywhere, meaning it can only leave through evaporation. All the salts and minerals that were in the water then remain in the desert lake beds, forming salt flats. Western Oklahoma is certainly dry, but is far from a desert, and the Great Salt Plains sit well over 300 miles, or 500 kilometers, from the nearest mountain range. It's unique in that it exists in a place where the conditions are not typical for salt flats to form, and indeed, it's hard to find mention of many other salt flats that exist in the U.S. east of the Rockies, although not too far away to the west sits another salt flat, Oklahoma's Big Salt Plains, and a salty marsh to the north sits in Kansas. These are the last remnants of an ancient sea that stretched into the North American interior millions of years ago. Though the ocean is gone, salt water still seeps through the ground beneath the surface in some areas, with evaporation bringing salt to the surface and forming Oklahoma's salt plains. Though most salt flats only lose water to evaporation, a river flows through the Great Salt Plains, the aptly named Salt Fork of the Arkansas River, which was dammed in the 40s to create the Great Salt Plains Lake, which covers part of the flats. The plains are home to lots of selenite crystals, specifically a form called hourglass selenite, which can be found nowhere else on Earth, and visitors to the plains are allowed to dig for selenite themselves. California's Central Valley, which separates the Sierra Nevada from the Coast Ranges, is the largest valley in the United States, and a vast flat center of agricultural land. However, in the northern part of the valley, near the town of Yuba City, sits a cluster of mountains and hills, only 10 miles in diameter, a circular rise connected to no other mountain range, surrounded for miles in all directions by the flat valley. These are the Sutter Buttes, often referred to as the world's smallest mountain range, though in reality they are the remnants of an old volcanic dome. An area where magma broke through the surface and created a large volcanic formation that has since eroded into the cluster of peaks that exists today. If you've driven the I-5 down the west coast, you've probably seen them. They are very noticeable, jutting out of the Pancake Flat Valley for 2,000 feet. When looking at a map of the state, the circular anomaly easily draws your attention, almost like an eye in the valley. Volcanic domes like the Sutter Buttes exist all over areas with volcanic activity, but the Sutter Buttes are a particularly striking example as they sit surrounded by a flat, low-lying area and are far, far larger than many others. New Jersey is known as a suburban state. Sitting directly between New York City and Philadelphia, the largest and fifth largest urban areas in the country respectively, the small state is home to a large population and is the most densely populated state in the country. Much of the land is urbanized and most of the land that isn't is farmland. Mountains and hills leave some areas in northern New Jersey less populated, but in the flat coastal south of the state, a surprisingly large swath of land is a massive, nearly untouched pine forest. The eastern U.S. was colonized first, and its land is flatter, greener, and easier to settle than the west. Unfortunately, this means that there are far fewer wild places left in the east of the country, though certainly not none. Usually, they're simply areas that were, for one reason or another, harder to settle, often due to mountain topography. New Jersey's pine barrens, as they're known, are a vast pine forest growing in sandy soil. The sand made the region completely worthless for farming, and so the forests were never chopped down, allowing this huge wilderness area to survive right among the densely populated east string of East Coast cities, where much of the U.S. population lives. If you want to learn more about the Pine Barrens, check out my U.S. Explained video on New Jersey, which goes into more detail on the region. Of course, there are plenty more examples of areas in the United States that geographically seem just totally out of place from the landscape around them. I've got a whole running list going, so if you all enjoyed this video, I'll probably make a few more. Of course, this isn't just limited to the United States. There are geographic anomalies like these around the world as well, so please leave comments below suggesting out of place geographic features in the US or around the world that you'd like to see in future videos. I think this could be a fun series to make. Of course, my US Explained series, with an in-depth video on every state, territory, and federal district in the country, is continuing as usual. The next video on New York will be up soon. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who has already joined my Patreon. Through it, you can access different things such as behind-the-scenes videos, early access to maps I create, an exclusive Discord Q&A with me, ad-free content, and shoutouts in my videos. Please be sure to check out the TII store, where you'll be able to purchase all sorts of official That Is Interesting products and merchandise, including shirts, hoodies, embroidered beanies, masks, mugs, embroidered backpacks made by Champion, laptop stickers and sleeves, and so on. I really appreciate the well over 400 of you who have already joined my Discord server. If you haven't joined the Discord server yet, it's a great place to continue conversations about the topics discussed in these videos, interact with fellow viewers, and help provide information and suggestions for upcoming videos. It's a great community, and we do fun stuff like geography game nights, live podcasts, and so on. I'll put links to both the Patreon and the Discord in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something new. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover the countries, cities, people, and places of the world and beyond. These videos will leave you saying, "That is interesting."